This is the second session in the ICT in Education Forum being hosted by the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. Of course, you're in the Huberlo platform. And if you're on Facebook and YouTube, we welcome you as well. And just very quickly, before we introduce the next panel, which will be moderated by Nigel Casimir, to just remind you of a couple of things in terms of using the platform. Please use the, you can post in the live chat, but if you do want to pose a question, we're asking you to use the Q&A so that it doesn't get all sort of muddled up in the sort of exchanges that might be taking place. And that would be very helpful in helping Nigel to actually be able to pull your questions and direct them to the various speakers who are coming up in this session. This one is going to be looking at, oh, I just turned to Thursday, so go back to Wednesday. The second one is ICT, the UNESCO ICT Competency Framework. And this session, moderated by Nigel, will be looking at UNESCO's competency framework and its applicability to the Caribbean. We have Dr. Eduardo Ali, who is Pro-Registrar and Deputy CEO of the Caribbean Examinations Council, and Mr. Robert Geist, who is the Senior Education Officer of Measurement, Evaluation and Curriculum in the Ministry of Education in the Commonwealth of Dominica. So without further ado, thank you for rejoining us. And Nigel, it's all yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Josanne. But we will begin by looking at the UNESCO ICT Competency Framework for Teachers more directly. That presenter is Mr. Victor Perez Rubio, and he is the Program Coordinator at UNESCO's Education Sector. So, Mr. Perez Rubio, if you are ready, we are ready for you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your introduction. And first of all, it's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you also for the invitation. I think you can hear me well. Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. So it's also great to have been to be after all these colleagues that have been talking about ICT in the first session. It was really nice, very interesting. Also to see all what it's behind, and we are working, have been working lately a lot in the Caribbean through a project that will come in now. And it's very nice to see all that is happening apart from what I was involved. There is
recording in progress.
There is well, as mentioned, I have been working in a program that my colleague Carlos Vargas explained very briefly at the very beginning, that it's on distance learning and training strategies in the Caribbean. This project took place in 2021, and we had some, we were working some of these ICT competency framework for teachers in this program. It's interesting to see what we have been doing there, because it's something that we have been doing in 20 different countries in the sub-region. As Carlos mentioned, we worked in small in SIDS in 20 small islands, and we had my result. We had around 12,000 teachers registered on this program. It came from a previous initiative. It came from a small pilot that was done in 2020, and this small pilot had to be refined for 2021. And that's where I mentioned that that we have here the competency framework for teachers, because we were taking this into account when we had to refine the new course for the teachers. In order to do that, we created a reference group in the Caribbean to see how could evolve that course. This course was a course organized by, or created by Blackboard Academy. And is one of the partners that we have at the Global Education Coalition. And thanks to these refinements, I think that we arrived more to the points where teachers had more issues also. I remember, for example, that some teachers were explaining that there was a lack of how to assess online. And that was from the pilots. Also that TVET teachers were saying that they were missing something in that. So I remember that we were refining these kind of things. So the course took place in 2021, and I think that it went quite well. We have a teacher from all 20 countries joining. We worked in this program with our colleagues from UNESCO cluster office in the Caribbean, who did a great job also by finding stakeholders that could also implement the course in there. So we are lucky that we have these colleagues also working in there, and I think that we had a very good results. The thing is that after the course finished in 2021, we had there was a good opportunity to continue also working with teachers. And we contacted some teachers first of all, we did a survey to teachers in the 20 countries. And I think that it will be interesting that maybe I mentioned some of the things that these teachers were needing, or at least that they answer that they are lacking in their trainings. And I think it was we did a survey to 1,500 teachers, and these teachers were lacking training in digital skills. So we saw that even they followed this course with Blackboard, they will still needing some skills, more digital skills. It's something that even we thought with one course they will still need. And of course, when we are like in the world that we are living at the moment, like ICT is a non-stop. It's not, it's evolving constantly. So they need to continue working on this and lifelong learning. It's a lifelong learning process. And I think it was quite interesting to see. Also, I remember that there was they were missing, that they would like to be trained also in teacher engagement. They are having some difficulties in this, in engaging students in virtual settings. How can they know, for example, that their students are listening? So there are some issues that the teachers in the Caribbean raised. Through it, we continue some work, an initiative from JSET, the donor of the project that I mentioned, that we are running at the moment in Jamaica. It's called the Future Teacher Kit. It's a small pilot we are doing with 238 teachers in Jamaica. We are using WhatsApp to provide some training. We saw that the teachers and, in fact, during when we created the Future Teacher Kit, and when we started working UNESCO with, as I said, in this initiative, we did a focus group in Jamaica, and we saw that there were, and it's something that I wanted to mention also. We had some co-working. We had to, some co-creation, a co-creation stage, because this is something that Carlos mentioned also before, that many times there are resources, that there are platforms that are created without thinking the teachers and without asking them what are their needs. So in this case, what we tried was like the different steps to work with them, to talk with teachers and see what are their needs and how can we address them better. So in this case, what we have created is this small pilot that goes through WhatsApp, because what we want to do is, I mean, teachers were telling us that they didn't have the time. So we want to create something on the go. And they also feel, and it's something that we have seen with the pandemic, is that they feel alone. You know, there's this feeling. I don't think it's only for teachers, it's for everyone, I think, that there's this problem, I think, is raising in society. So they feel a bit more alone than before. This tool or this initiative also wants to create communities of teachers where they can talk about the problems, also about the training that they are having, and that they have an easy way of doing it through their mobile phones and through using low technology. This is something that we are doing at the moment in Jamaica. Let me go back also to the capacity framework for teachers. There is something that I would like to highlight. I mean, this framework is for pre-service and in-service teachers. Something that I also find quite important is that sometimes they are left a bit behind are the pre-service teachers. If we could achieve that this framework, for example, is embedded in the curriculum for the pre-service teachers, these teachers, the ones that have are still pre-service, that they have not started their classes, they have still not prepared their lessons. The problem when you have in service that they already have some years experience, they already prepared the classes one way, and it's very difficult to make them go back to rethink. Of course, it can be done, but sometimes they are more redundant to do it. So it will be good that we also focus in the pre-service teachers in order to make them from the very beginning work with ICT in the lessons, and it will be also easier. It's true that at the same time the pre-service teachers are more used to ICTs than probably the ones that have been teaching for many years, only because of the age difference. Before there was not so much technology around us, but now they have grown up with technologies. So it's true that there is probably a difference. One thing that it was also very mentioned at the very beginning of this conference is that if we are watching this, it's because we have internet. If we have joined today, it was because we have technology and we know how to use it. And or if not, maybe, yeah, it was mentioned that we have our son or doctor that has registered for us. The thing is that what is happening is that to follow, because there's no other way, to follow teacher training nowadays with COVID, or to learn at any learner. It could be a young learner, it can be a teacher, it can be whoever. We are doing it online, or we are doing it distance, not only online. But it's true that they need some ICT skills to receive more ICT skills. And that sometimes is can be a problem if in order to teach something, you already need to know a bit of it. So that's something that is difficult to carry online and to teach people online about something that they already know how to do. So we should facilitate or teachers in order to get these trainings also about and that's why, for example, we would like to work in the use of telephones if it's easier for them. So I think that there are other things that could be interesting, but maybe I will wait to see if there are questions about it. I don't think that we have much time, but I'm open for questions at the end of this session and to talk with the colleagues here. Over to you.
All right, thank you, Victor, for that introduction and information on some of those pilot programs and other programs that you recently have undertaken and are undertaking in the Caribbean region. We will get to the specific questions shortly, but I first want to invite Dr. Eduardo Ali, who is the Pro-Registrar and Deputy CEO at the Caribbean Examinations Council, to make his intervention and as regards the teacher competencies and their experience in the CXC. Dr. Ali?
Well, good morning to all. Thank you very much for having CXC engaged in this very important discourse, which the CTU has thought fit to speak to the issues that affect the Caribbean region as we talk about digitalization and digitization agendas, and we attempt to position our organizations and our sectors accordingly. So let me first start by saying that where CXC is concerned, we are in fact prioritizing our digitalization agenda. Our strategic plan, our current strategic plan, focuses on ensuring that as an enterprise, we are responsive, we are flexible, we are agile, and certainly that we reposition all our work towards becoming such an organization that facilitates the transformation agenda of the region in education. We have been engaged in several dialogues with relevant partners across the region and internationally to facilitate the extent to which our organization, first of all, and then the sector which we represent, that is the education and training sectors of the region, are positioned to support us. And so at CXC, we have been working very closely with the CARICOM Digital Task Force, Skills Task Force, to support the endeavors that they have in terms of digitization in the region, and more specifically, education. We have also introduced an e-transition framework so that by 2025, most of our products and services would be online and available to all stakeholders in the region. I would dare say that to some extent, we have already moved in that direction fairly well prior to the pandemic. And of course, we are continuing in that thrust. Now, where the UNESCO's ICT competency framework is concerned, for us, there are specific priorities. As far as teacher training goes, what we have been doing over the past few years, we have introduced a learning institute that would have identified teacher orientation workshops to familiarize teachers with changes to the syllabi that we offer and the awards that we offer to our stakeholders in the region, i.e. students. But working very intimately with the ministries of education and teachers to build capacity for the changes in these syllabi as they are made. I would dare say that what we have found is that there is an increasing demand for access to open education resources and an increasing demand for teacher training within a micro-credentialing context. So CXC is in the process of transforming and reforming its teacher education strategies and processes and products to deliver to the region micro-credentialing that facilitates the access to online learning for teachers, building capacity in specific areas, and of course, supporting their professional development in a very structured format. We have also introduced several years ago a learning hub, and our learning hub provides resources for teachers to be able to integrate within an online space so that they could obviously access materials to support their teaching. What we are trying to do is create an innovation system for teachers that facilitates access to open education resources offered by CXC in partnership with other institutions in the region. We've started that dialogue, and we are obviously going to look at how we can proceed in that regard. There's a slide that I would have asked to be presented. I'm not sure if the access materials to support their teaching. What we are trying to do is create an innovation system for teachers that facilitates getting access to open education resources offered by CXC in partnership with other institutions in the region. We've started that dialogue, and we are obviously going to look at how we can proceed in that regard. There's a slide that I would have asked to be I seem to be getting some feedback from my own presentation. I am not sure why this is happening, and what we are trying to hear myself speak. Again, well, I will try to upload my presentation so that others could view it, if that's possible, to minimize disruption. I'm hoping it can be seen. Yes. Okay. So in short, what we are hoping to do is to align the ICT competency framework and to regard the ICT competency framework as the pillars for reformation of our learning institutes offerings for teachers. And so the products and services that we intend to offer, as we will work those through over the coming months, will facilitate the needs of primary, secondary, and technical and vocational education and training teachers across the region who interface with our primary products. Our primary products here being, as you know, the CPEA, which is the primary exit examination or assessment. We also offer the very familiar Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate, CSEC. We offer CAPE, the associate degrees, and also CBQs and what we call the CCSLC that we offer. There are new qualifications that we are bringing on stream. So the intention is to provide, in partnership with teacher training institutions in the region, universities, colleges, and institutes of teacher training, a coordinated partnership, a model that allows for integration of content for delivery of learning to all teachers so that they are offered in a micro-credentialing format and a nano-credentialing format. Teachers in the region will access these courses that are delivered by CXC and, of course, by the partner institution. There will be continuing professional development units awarded to them. They would be able to access where in their education systems there's a need for licensing. These units, we hope, will be given the relevant credence and authentication by the ministries of education so that teachers can be licensed and they can be counted as credits for their ongoing professional development. In that regard, we expect that teacher training institutions in the region will use these short courses as we deliver them to provide for the upgrading of skills by teachers as they participate in their certificate, diploma, and degree programs across the region. So we've identified 3 levels, what we call PD level 1, PD level 2, and PD level 3. Level 1 would focus on knowledge acquisition competencies as defined by the ICT competency framework. And this would allow teachers to acquire basic digital literacy skills and digital citizenship skills to, in accordance with our CXC products that we offer to the region. In addition, our products and the digital skills that we are looking to address would also be articulated to the ICDL framework for teachers that would have been articulated by the CARICOM Digital Skills Task Force. The second level would be incorporating knowledge deepening competencies, which is also identified in the framework. And this is where teachers will be integrating ICT tools to allow for the delivery of authentic learning experiences. So we look at authentic learning, authentic assessment. We develop competencies of our teachers as assessors in the classroom, as pedagogical experts, and persons who would obviously have some proficiency to support teacher training. So those persons who would not have had prior teacher training experience would access level 1. Those who've had some preliminary teacher training experience from a tertiary institution would access level 2. And those persons who are master teachers who may have had some expertise already and have honed their expertise, we hope to develop those persons to a level, satisfactory level, where not only they are innovators of educational resources in the school system and innovators of curriculum, but also persons who can provide the necessary knowledge creation competencies to develop the kind of knowledge society that we need. Those individuals also would represent the kinds of persons we want as assessors, who would be markers, moderators, and the like, working with CXC on our product delivery. So in a nutshell, we see the ICT competency framework of UNESCO being critical. What we have done thus far, and I must admit, as we realign our learning hub within our learning institute, and it becomes an open education resource platform for all teachers to access resources, develop innovative resources, partner across the region to ensure that happens, we will have a digital capacity within the region to not only have teachers with the capabilities that are needed, but also to transform and translate those competencies to the students whom they serve and educational administrators whom they work with. And finally, we are grateful for the opportunity to partner with UNESCO, and in particular, the Division of Policies and Lifelong Learning. We have actually engaged in some preliminary discussions. They are very interested in our Learning Institute. The Chief of Teacher Education, who is based in the Santiago office at UNESCO, is in fact our partner, key partner, who will be working through the development of these resources to transform the Learning Institute that we're putting in place to serve the region well and to ensure that the digital capacity of our teachers would be addressed at the sufficient levels. So that is it for my presentation. And thank you very much for hearing me today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali. It's very, very good to see the CXC applying the UNESCO framework and working at the 3 levels of acquisition, deepening, and creation, knowledge creation as well. I would now like to invite into the discussion Mr. Robert Geist, who is the Senior Education Officer, Measurement, Evaluation, and Curriculum at the Ministry of Education in Dominica. Mr. Geist, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for having me, first of all. I will be joined today by my colleague, our ICT specialist in the Ministry of Education, Mr. Timothy Lavenier. So basically, like CXC, the Ministry of Education in Dominica has used UNESCO's ICT competency framework as one of the pillars in guiding our online education. And as you know, Dominica, like the rest of the world, has been affected by COVID-19. And like Mr. Cadet and the others before me indicated, COVID-19 has exposed further the great digital divide in education. We saw that there was inequality in the access to devices and the access to the internet and connectivity. Despite those challenges, though, our teachers, we must commend our teachers for the great work that they have been doing. They have continued to strive and work hard to make sure that they reach out to our students. In fact, when we were rushed into the online learning, many of our teachers up to last year enrolled in UNESCO's Blackboard Academy K-12 blended learning and online strategies, and they were certified, and they used what they learned in the classrooms. But our main focus for this morning, we'll be speaking about the Ministry of Education's effort in integrating ICT into our education system. And over the last year and a half, the last 2 years, we have made a lot of strides. So we'll be looking at this morning, Mr. Laveni will be speaking about our efforts at EMIS, online learning using Google Classrooms, and I will join after to speak about our online assessments, virtual coaching, and our efforts at equity and access in our education system. So to move on to the EMIS section, I'll have Mr. Lavenier speak on that.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Just to continue from where Mr. Gis left off in terms of the competency framework, and to give you an example, about I think about over 5 years ago, we do training for teachers. To give you a background, every summer, ICT training for teachers, normally in the range of about 100 teachers every summer for the last 15 to 20 years. And about 5 years ago, a little bit more than 5 years ago, we used to have one of the courses. We normally run about 5 courses, and one of the courses we used to run was a beginner's training course for people who have absolutely very little knowledge about ICT and use of the equipment and use of online technologies. And a couple of years, 5 to 7 years ago, so we found out that for that class we had no registrants. Apparently that we had actually crossed the bridge at that point, where our teachers had now moved from having no knowledge to having acquired enough knowledge that they didn't see the importance of registering in that class. So we had now moved to the part where teachers were acquiring more knowledge and deepening knowledge. So in Dominica, we've been making a lot of progress in terms of teacher development in terms of ICT. The training programs have been working in terms of the 6 phases. I think right now we have some teachers at the last three levels of the competency framework, where it look at let me pull it up. The last 3 levels where we're looking at organization and administration. Well, you know, there's a group of teachers at application digital skills, another group on the higher one, the one going organization and administration. And we have a few of them that are to the point professional teacher learning right up here. So we have been making a lot of progress in terms of teacher training, quite a bit. And we must give praise to one of our partners, a Canadian partner. It's a non-profit organization, IT for Dominica Foundation. They have been working with us the last 20 years to train our teachers. So when the pandemic came, we were actually quite a bit ready in terms of the teachers being equipped with some knowledge to begin online learning. But as Mr. Gis said, we're going to look at a few other things today, just in brief, and I know the time is short, so I'm going to keep it very short. Our EMIS system, Education Management Information System, we use a system called OpenSys. It's a full-featured system, like almost any other EMIS system, and we've been using it for the past since 2010, so this is 12 years. Okay, it has really made the administration of education much easier because it allows us to get information at our fingertips, especially in terms of our students, both in terms of numbers and in terms of the granular details of our students, down to where they live, address, parental contact. And during the pandemic, it gave us a lot of assistance in terms of contact tracing, because we had 1 or 2 schools where I think teachers were infected, and we had to track the students associated with these teachers. So it really helped a lot. One of the reasons we use that system, unlike the Open EMIS, is mainly because this system is very much geared towards the school setting, in that a lot of the features apply to the things that happen within the school in terms of grading, discipline, attendance, and so on. The most powerful feature in that system is the gradebook. The gradebook in this system allows for a wide variety of complex grading structures, where teachers could take pieces of grades from different terms, different marking periods, even from different courses, and combine them to create a final grade for the students. Whereas in most of the other systems, the grade books are not as complex. And our teachers use the grade book quite a lot, and that's one of their main features that they love, because it prevents them from doing complex calculations on their own in a manual form. One of the things also it assisted us to do was to generate unique email addresses and ID for all our students very early. I think we had that done maybe by the first four 4 years of use. By the first 4 years of use, we had already generated unique email addresses and IDs for all our students. However, at that time, internet was still sketchy in a number of schools, and teachers' adoption of using online learning and so on was still slow. So it wasn't used so extensively. However, when the pandemic hit, it's like all hell broke loose. Fortunately for us, because we had already generated these unique addresses for the students, it was quite easy for us to transition from the brick and mortar to being online during the pandemic. Okay. The other thing we had done is it helps us a lot too when it comes to the national assessment, generating in advance a pre-registered list of students to do national assessment and being able to prepare based on the information we have gathered. To go on, just to look at areas that needs to be improved, I think it needs to have more reporting on a national level at the front end, like reports that are easier to be accessed by people who are less technology savvy. Okay, because we know a lot of the older folks, in terms of digging through the data in a technical form, it's more difficult for them. So if some of the reports can be better organized at the front end, and on a organizational level for us, I think we need to develop a better culture of effective data collection and harmonization, because it is still, in my opinion, very disjointed. And it really needs to come together if we want to maximize the tools that we have at our disposal. Okay, we move on briefly to the, let's take about 2 more minutes, the online education. For the online education platform, we use Google Classroom. And we finally came to the point of using Google Classroom about maybe 5 years ago. But that was after trying out several other platforms such as Moodle and so on. And the thing we found key about our successes and failure was teacher adoption. Teachers found the Moodle platform to be just too complicated for them. They would start and then they would find it's just too much, all these categories, and we just couldn't get them to go further. But when we started the Google Classroom, teachers found it to be quite user-friendly, and so they adopted it much quicker. The main adoption of it really took place again during the pandemic. So while the pandemic has been a difficult and a bad thing for our economies and society in general, but it have had its advantages in terms of getting the adoption of digital technology in the classroom. In terms of our successes with the online learning, I think in the first year of the pandemic, we had about, I would say, between 70 and 80% of our teachers online, and with various successes, because some of them were still struggling to properly organize the online classroom and so on. But during the second year, we can say we have about 100% of our teachers online in various forms. Some of them still do a combination of online and handouts. And it all depends on their situation, because every school context is slightly different, and even the context of the students in the catchment area. But so far we've been doing quite well with the teachers being engaged online. We've had every teacher, where teachers are mandated to create at least four caucuses during the online learning. And we have about, between last year and this year, over 5,000 classrooms have been created. So things have been going relatively well, I would say, for us in terms of the online learning. Just to highlight some of the key things that we have achieved without staying any longer, is we have had in every school, we now have lead teachers that help to support the progress of the online learning. Okay, so I will end here so Mr. Gis can continue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lavanier. And in addition to the highlights presented by Mr. Lavanier, I should also indicate that using the Google platform, using the Google Classroom platform, every curriculum officer has created a Google Classroom, which serves as a repository for teachers. So the officers put in information, worksheets, anything that is needed, videos, anything needed, anything that can help the teachers in the teaching and learning. So we have created Ministry of Education classrooms for teachers. Now, in terms of the online assessments, traditionally work with 2 and 4 national assessments, which are meant to be diagnostic. It's a paper and pencil test. But this year, owing to COVID, where we try to avoid any contact with students or people or anything, we piloted nationally. So every single primary school was involved. We piloted nationally online assessments using Google Forms and Tangerine software. The Tangerine software was introduced to us under an early learners program from the OECS, funded by UNICEF. So the Tangerine software is a web-based electronic data collection software designed for use on mobile computers, tablet computers, and smartphones. So we use that to assess students in the oral reading. For the mathematics and silent reading comprehension, we use Google Form and Google Meet. So we made use of the Google Suite to assess our students. No, what did we learn from that? For one, there was a vast reduction in the time taken to conduct the assessments. The data was available in real time. If there were any errors, they were quickly detected and they could be rectified immediately. And the reporting to teachers is going to be much more detailed. So teachers and schools can focus on individual students' performance and where the areas that they need help in. What were some of our challenges? Sorry. What were some of our challenges? We still have in Dominica limited access in 4 or 5 of our communities, and that prevented the assessment of students using the online platform. We have not gotten to those students as yet, but we will be meeting them using probably the paper and pencil, which we have been trying to avoid, or arrange that they can go to the schools to have themselves tested. We also need to, one of the challenges also was that teachers, we had to spend a lot of time training teachers, especially the teachers who were not tech savvy. So this can produce some issues for us. What is the future for online education in Dominica, online education assessment in Dominica? We wish we could do like CXC and have every student go online. But for now, it's a challenge because, as I indicated, we still have about 4 or 5 communities without internet access at in the communities. While there's access at the school, we still have access, problems with access in the community. What is the future for us? Owing to the relative success of the pilot for the diagnostic assessment, we are hoping to pilot the grade 6 national assessment, which is a high-stake exam. We're hoping to do that from May or June this year. And we also want to have to do further training with schools in the use of online classroom for their own assessments. Okay, so this is it for Google Classroom and online assessment. Also, we have been using virtual coaching to help our teachers. Seeing that because of COVID, we cannot go to the classrooms. What we have been doing is using virtual coaching. So we use this, a bug in the air coaching, a Bluetooth earpiece, which is given to teachers. While they are teaching, the officers remain in the classroom and give instructions in real time to the teacher that is being trained. So this helps because, like I said, it gives the teachers real-time instruction, real-time training. Okay, again, the reason we decided to use that under the OECS, the USAID, not UNICEF, it was USAID, OECS Early Learners Program. It was piloted and we saw the success of it, so we continued to use it. Also in continuing for virtual coaching, through funding from the Global Partnership in Education through the OECS Commission, we have set up virtual coaching centers at 4 of our primary schools. And this will be used for district training, district virtual meetings, district coaching. And also schools are expected to use that in their own teaching and learning. So it is not limited to the Ministry of Education. And also, we cannot forget TVET skills. So the Ministry of Education has partnered with the Rotary Club of Dominica and the Rotary Club of Canada to set up a Dominica Smart Distance Learning Center. This is, we have 2 centers for that. One is based at the Dominica State College. The other is based at the Portsmouth Secondary School. And this will be used for providing training to TVET students for TVET skills remotely. And finally, in terms of access and equity, the government of Dominica has made available over 7,000 tablets to students. And this is in addition to over 2,900 tablets provided by the OECS Commission on the COVID accelerated program. And the National Telecoms Regulatory Commission has provided internet access at low cost to low-income families at for $10, a maximum of $10. So this is it for us. This is Dominica's efforts at online education and integrating ICT into the education system.
Thank you very much, Mr. Geese. We want to move quickly into some of the questions from the audience now. Quite interesting and impressive in some of the efforts that have taken place in Dominica to make progress in this regard. Let me go to the Q&A, and in this first question, actually, what is the point of this first question regarding curriculum? The educational curriculum has been raised by a few of our listeners. I'll read this particular one and add to it. What actions, if any, are being taken regionally to address the need for curriculum review and reform to address the competencies required for this new environment and the need for change in delivery of teaching and learning? But I'll add to that, there is an additional nuance related to the dependence on content from all these digital sources. And is it aligning with the Caribbean curriculum and our needs? Are they culturally relevant to our development needs and so on? So I'll put that out to the panel, and maybe CXC might be able to lead us off on this one.
Well, thank you very much for your question. Through you, sir. Just to indicate that curriculum is really a contested terrain, to put it very mildly, in that there are several players who have different levels of responsibility for design, development, and implementation of curriculum that ultimately impacts the learner within this learning space where the learner is actually transacting in the learning process. So from a CXC standpoint, all our syllabi, or syllabuses as we fondly refer to them, are scheduled to undertake a review. And the review would normally engage subject panels that are established and approved by the council, who would then engage in a review of the syllabus that ensure that it is appropriate to the learning context within the various territories whom we serve. And so we do take advice, we do take look at market data, we do look at other forms of evidence from a very pragmatic perspective that is submitted to us by our stakeholders to inform the review process. As far as digitization is concerned, we also recognize that as we transition more towards e-testing, which is really a priority right now, all our paper ones for all our syllabi or syllabuses effectively have shifted to an e-testing mode. And primarily our January uptake, our examinations are done in that format. What we're trying to do by 2025 is to ensure that all paper ones and paper twos and others are in fact organized in a way where they reflect the needs and demands of learners to facilitate e-testing. Now, having said that, we are alive and understand the nuances that are faced in territories, particularly where technology and unavailability is concerned, where networked access is a problem, and certainly where telecommunications is not always at its utmost best in terms of efficiency to provide meaningful access to learning and to assessment. And so there is the need for that level of dialogue regionally as one engages in that process. So for us, in terms of the digital skills competency framework that I referred to that is being looked at firstly by the Digital Skills Task Force established by CARICOM, and secondly, reflecting on the teacher competencies in the ICT framework posed by UNESCO, and thirdly, in response to the CARICOM qualifications framework, where there are 5 domain areas, including ICT, that need to be inculcated in all our qualifications, awards, and syllabuses. CXC is reviewing currently on a scheduled basis all of our syllabuses to ensure that they align to what the demands are globally, first of all, to ensure that we understand the regional implications so that what we are developing are learners for the 21st century who are nationally appropriate and relevant, who are regionally capable of transitioning from territory to territory. And of course, those persons who may be global citizens and wanting to study and work internationally. So in a nutshell, that is our approach. I hope that helps.
It does help. I'm just wondering, the syllabus review, is that on a particular regular cycle? And the current review, is there a specific time frame that? So
we do. We have all our syllabuses are in fact scheduled, and the schedules are approved by our School Examinations Committee of Council and Council itself to be administered on an annual basis based on priorities for the region. There are other developments in place for certain syllabuses. For example, we're looking at robotics and artificial intelligence at the level for CAPE and other levels. And so there are priorities that are being fast-tracked to serve the region's needs. But there are also, in the review process, we have to take into consideration all of the nuances, and we get stakeholder feedback to guide how we do those reviews on the schedule that we have. Thereafter this year, what we call critical or urgent syllabuses that we have to work on, given also the realities that CXC faces in terms of its own funding and in terms of its availability of resources inside the organization and externally to support the review process. So I need to put that to mention that there are constraints. And so we've had to prioritize the syllabuses at 4 levels. And the critical syllabuses are what we've agreed just recently to implement this year.
Thank you. Any comments from any of the other panelists on this question about syllabuses?
Yes, in terms of the primary school curriculum, through the OECS, through the Global Partnership in Education, what we are doing, we'll be reviewing the OECS harmonized primary curriculum. So there are 4 member states working on this. That's Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and Grenada. And it will begin, we will begin with a curriculum and assessment training course for over 78 teachers. And part of that review process will include action research conducted at over 32 of our primary schools. Each member state will lead on one of the subjects, but it will be a collaborative effort for every subject. And we're hoping that within 2 years, we would have an OECS harmonized primary curriculum that captures the needs of the region and the commonalities among the region. And we will focus also on one common assessment for the entire region. Just as CXC deals with CPEA and CSEC, we are looking also at one harmonized curriculum and one primary assessment for our students. And I think part of the question was also dealt with content for teachers. In Dominica, what we are doing, we have teamed with NotesMaster Caribbean, and we are using the digital learning hub to produce content which will assist with our teachers, because in Dominica, we still have our national curriculum, which we use in our schools. So we have teamed with NotesMaster, and we are currently creating digital content which teachers can use in the teaching and learning process in the classroom. So in terms of the curriculum, we are working on the OECS harmonized primary curriculum. And in terms of assessment, we hopefully will be working with CXC as part of that OHPC to develop probably the CPEA. We don't know as yet. We are not finalized as yet in Dominica. But yeah, this is the route I think we're going to.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There is a question that maybe Mr. Victor Perez Rubio could address. This question is, and maybe you could address it from the point of view of your experience with your pilots around the Caribbean over the last couple of years. What percentage of students were not reached online? And what are some of the common issues about student engagement as reported by teachers?
So I don't have like the percentage of students that could not be reached. Because in these programs that we have been working on, it's mainly with teachers. So we have been working with, yeah, can you hear?
Yes, your hand was over your mic just now. So.
That's it. Okay, sorry. So we have been working with teachers. So I don't have the data about the students' engagement. What the information I gave about the students' engagement is from a survey that we have done with to teachers from the Caribbean, and I have said that they are having these problems, but I don't know which which amount of students are not following the lessons, for example, or what is happening. What is clear is that one thing that is happening worldwide is that not all the students have, for example, access to the internet. They don't have the same possibilities. So there is a gap now between some students and others that can follow the classes and others that can't. If before there was a gap, now the gap is even bigger. So I would say that I don't have percentages, but what is clear is that less students are following classes than before this pandemic started. So at UNESCO, what we would like is that, and what we work on is that education continues, that it doesn't stop. And we are working on that. We are working with other sectors also in how we can arrive to solution. Sometimes it's more difficult than others, but we'll see. There has been, and I was mentioning online, but it's true that there has been some countries that have problems with online connection. They have used radio, they have used television. It's not that we only have to use the internet. So in some countries there have been there were some issues. They have tried to find solutions, but it's true that it's not easy. So that's the thing.
Thank you. There is a comment that might be interesting on the syllabus or syllabi issue. The comment is that in terms of content, we do not need to reinvent the wheel. What can happen is to publish the syllabi online so that all stakeholders can suggest the best online resources that can support the teaching and learning of the syllabi content over time. So it's a thought that I guess could also be considered. There is also a question as to whether parents would be expected to pay for physical and digital versions of textbooks and workbooks. I suppose those are issues that would have to be worked out. It's also been noted that the digital divide is not only among staff, but also among schools and parents, stakeholders. Parents also need to be coached as supports in the digital environment. I'm rushing through quickly because we are really at the end of our time. And a final comment from the chat was that Google Classroom offers more than enough functionality for application in the primary and secondary school level. And from what Mr. Geese mentioned, it certainly was more easily adopted and accepted by the teachers than the platform they had been using previously.
That's it.
Yes, so at this point, folks, we are indeed out of time. I would like to thank our presenters in this particular panel, Mr. Victor Perez Rubio, Dr. Eduardo Ali of CXC, and also Mr. Robert Geese from Dominica. Thank you very much, folks. The discussion was rich. We take the comments as we move forward further into the program.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Nigel. And again, to just Victor, so sorry, I was speeding into the session that I omitted your name at the very beginning. We're going to do a quick chair change here as Nigel slips out, which will probably be visible or not visible to you, I'm not sure. But in real time, Nigel slips out, and Rodney Taylor, SG here at the CTU, slips in, and the camera is back on. So all that's left for me to do is to invite you, Rodney, we were all making copious notes. Mine's were the old-fashioned way, and yours was, I could just hear the keys pounding away for a sort of wrap up of today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Roseanne. And it indeed was a rich discussion today. I've taken lots of notes. Nigel did a very good wrap up that immediate past session. But the opening session this morning was quite riveting, in particular, that data presented by the ITU globally. So clearly it is an issue that is not just affecting the Caribbean, but it is a global issue. Of course, though, in terms of our response has to be tailored to our own specific needs. So we want to thank the ITU for those very riveting statistics. And of course, it is encouraging to see that the competency framework is actually informed the work of the Caribbean Examinations Council. It certainly is informing ministries of education within the region. Dominica gave us good examples of that. And I think the research I've been doing so far, it looks as though Dominica is actually one of the leading companies in terms of online education, and certainly from teacher competency within the OECS. At least the data was just a few years ago. And it is also interesting when you think, again, because of the lack of devices that so many students have had to learn on mobile phones and via WhatsApp. And I'm thinking that's a very difficult proposition, just from the size of the screen, that kind of thing. It certainly is an immersive experience. And the teachers, of course, have their own challenges. In fact, I did a poll within the Ubilo platform to get audience feedback as to what were some of the most critical issues, whether it was lack of devices, lack of internet access, digital skills for the students, or competencies for the teachers, lack of digital content, and other. I probably should have put home environment there so we can get a better handle on the other. But digital competency for teachers was the whopping winner. 32.1% of our participants said it really the focus needs to be on teachers. So that was great.
Are you stopped?
And the role of parents as well.
Yeah,
And I found the
yeah.
question, I like the ecosystem that is being developed by the OECS Secretariat in partnership, of course, with the other stakeholders. And the question that came from one of the audience members about the how do you incorporate parents more? I think that is actually very critical, because parents are now becoming teachers,
Well, how to become
right?
teachers?
And if they themselves are not tech savvy or digitally literate, how do they even ensure that the homework is being
Or
done?
financially challenged.
Or financially challenged. How do you ensure? I mean, that even yes, you may have a device, but how do you ensure that assignments are being submitted, and that the child, the student is
The
engaged,
learning.
and the learning is taking place. So yes, I'll stop there for now, and tomorrow we're really looking forward to the discussion around the technology platforms, getting some case studies from Jamaica, in particular for rural communities, and delving into the social aspects of this.
Well, I too just want to echo the sentiments that you posited, and Nigel, that it's been such a rich, very rich conversation, and I would.
Sorry, it's OECS Commission, sorry.
OECS.
Secretary.
The fact that this is really just the tip of the iceberg, and I mean, I suppose CTU and some of its partners have to find a way to bring other people on board and to really now take a deeper dive into every one of these areas. For me, Mr. Cadet was, talking about the new socio-economic, cultural, and I liked the moral imperative. It's not just about the technology and so. And Didicus Joseph, he never disappoints.
Of course.
And he talked about the appropriate learning material, sage teachers being the sage on the stage, no guide on the side. Yes, wonderful from him, and of course all the other presentations that were so rich. So that is left for me to do is to reiterate the thanks of the CTU for all of you who signed in today, and invite you to do so again tomorrow. You're already on the Hubilo platform, so you know exactly what to do. And thanks to the partners, UNESCO, the ITU, and the OECS questionnaires you've done, and the Internet Society, because I did remember that you said that they always are there to support the CTU, and of course your sponsors, or the sponsors, Viasat and RACSIP. So thank you all for your contributions. Continue to participate. For those of you who requested the presentations, they will be available on the platform. They will be available with a little bit of a lag on the CTU website and on the CTU's socials, which will be YouTube and their Facebook page. Thank you. I'm Josanne Leonard. Thank you all for being with us this morning. And we look forward to you joining us tomorrow at 9 o'clock.